I'm glad it's you. Had to be you.
ARCANE Season 2, I've got massive Jinx questions. Copious amounts of Jinx questions. It had to be you. We've been hearing this line since the trailers, and once I heard it in context, it felt right, but why? Why did it have to be Vi? Or actually, no, you can't even ask that yet. Before we even get to the Vi part, the real first question is this. Had to. What kind of language is that? Had to? Why did it have to be anyone specific? Why did it have to happen at all? Why does Jinx have to die? Or presumably she doesn't, because she didn't. So why does she think she has to die? Why does she want to die? Character's expressing something very specific here, and if that weren't weird enough, episode 3 she's about to die. She says she's ready to die, whatever that means. And then, like we said, she doesn't. But then fast forward, she says she did die.
Jinx is dead.
What is going on? And it's really just pushing into the broader question, what is Jinx's story in Season 2? Season 1 is about accepting the fact of what she is. She's Jinx. Season 2 is about dying in a way that's not actually literally dying. Or Act 2, she says that dying already happened, so must be about something else. So what? What is it? Okay, so Isha is a part of this that I cannot figure out how to fit in, but it seemed like it was key to finding answers. She is by far the most prominent feature of Jinx's Season 2 story up through Act 2, which by the way is all that's been released at the time of making this video. So where does her story fit? And some things are pretty straightforward. As far as what part she plays broadly, yes, she's Powder. Yes, we're seeing Jinx go through a sister arc as Big Sister this time, and then we get super sad scene at the end. First viewing, that was pretty much what I got from it. It was fine, it was good, but my question was why? Why are we doing this now? Why does Jinx need this now? What does this have to do with all the other Jinx stuff? What does this have to do with her death stuff? How does it impact the whole complicated place she's in with Vi? And I mean, it does impact it quite a bit apparently, because pre-Isha Jinx Vi scenes look like this, and post-Isha Jinx Vi scenes look like this. It could not be more different. Not to mention the solution to Jinx Vi fighting seems to be Isha in some way, which is not entirely clear. So what's going on here? One of my patrons helped me take the next step in understanding this. I knew there were more specific parallels in the sister arc, but it wasn't until I saw Ethan's comment that I realized how specific and directed they were. Listen to this. Isha is Powder if everything went right. Isha throws the first mouse gadget and it works, helping Jinx beat the henchman. The umbrella bombs from the checkpoint work. For the first time, Powder is not alone and she's flourishing. In Isha's last stand, she sees Jinx in trouble, and even though she's scared, she dives in confident that she can save everyone. She takes the same hex crystals from the same pocket Powder did. She overstuffs them into a single weapon, but instead of being safely outside waiting for the bomb to work, Isha is in the center of the battlefield pulling the trigger herself. Jinx lived the explosion but killed everyone. Isha dies in the explosion and saves everyone. Isha is the hero like Powder always wanted to be. So now we're getting somewhere. Isha sees Jinx as a hero. Jinx cannot see herself in that way at all.
Me, a hero. How screwed up is this place?
And being real, she is a hero. She started the war. She decimated the Piltover Council. She reversed the whole gray toxic air business in glorious fashion. And yet still, when she finally does manage to believe in the term just barely enough that she feels comfortable throwing it in Vi's face, what does she say?
I'm a hero. I busted half of Zahn out of Stillwater.
She clings to that event because freeing half the Undercity wasn't really what she was trying to do at all. So as far as she's concerned, that is proof, if anything, that the Jinxer hero worshiper people are just misunderstanding her. It's proof she's not a hero. So the question remains, why can't Jinx see herself in that way? And why can Isha see her in that way? Okay, so prepare to hear what sounds like a tangent, but isn't. I got this comment about Isha that I found fascinating. Hakito says that Isha is nerve deaf. She may be able to hear some frequencies of sound, but she lacks the normal range of frequencies needed for human communication. I am the father of a deaf girl. I saw this constantly. I'm sensitive to the cues as I lived them for 18 years. Notice how Isha is completely unresponsive to spoken word when her back is turned. Notice how Isha doesn't understand why Jinx is bopping to the music Fika's new arm is playing. Notice how when Isha jumps between Vi and Jinx in Season 2, Episode 3, Isha locks eyes with Jinx and not Vi. Isha was looking for Jinx to give the order to stop her kill, but Jinx was paralyzed with shock. So only then did Isha turn to face Vi, and she realized that she had to make the call to kill Vi. I suspect she's only capable of very high frequency or low frequency hearing, but the mid-ranges needed for speech are just not there. Isha never learned speech because she doesn't know it exists. Everyone is just mouth flapping. She's only interested in facial expressions and gesticulations. Episode 4 to 6 spoilers. Isha doesn't understand why Warwick freaked out at the blacksmith shop. She couldn't hear the quenching sound that startled Warwick. Isha doesn't hear Vi ask about healing from Victor, as Vi's back was to Isha, so she doesn't understand why Victor is approaching with his hand outstretched towards Warwick. She looks scared and then she goes to intercede. Look at Isha's life. A stranger approaching with a hand outstretched towards you is not a good thing. There are more than 3 dozen different indicators during the bug fight scene while Isha plays with a grenade, and Jinx is talking about being Powder and how Isha reminds Jinx of Powder. Zero response as Isha isn't looking at Jinx's face. I showed this comment to my friend Kamaya, who's an ASL speaker and is studying to be an interpreter, and she said she independently picked up on this pretty quickly on her watch. And it's interesting, she had different things that she noticed. She mentioned how Isha often seems to be looking at characters' mouths instead of their eyes, implying that she might be lip reading or trying to.
Best feeling in the world.
Yeah, right there. She's looking directly at the mouth and not at the eyes.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And normally when hearing people or watching people, they'll look in the eyes because that's generally what's expected.
Mm-hmm.
But when people are lip reading, it's really hard, and so they're always looking right at the mouth.
Uh-huh.
And I do, like, after going through the episodes and looking at it, she's definitely lip reading because she understands some things, and it's only ever when she's looking at the person and making eye contact with the person. Otherwise, she does not acknowledge it at all. Like, I never saw her acknowledge anything someone said when their back was turned to her, and she did usually acknowledge them when they were looking at her. And like when she could see their mouths.
The little noises Isha makes reminded Kamaya of deaf children that she's interacted with.
And throughout the entire thing, she's always making little noises all the time.
Yeah.
They're super adorable, but that's actually really, really common with deaf people. And with pretty much every deaf person that I've interacted with, they'll oftentimes make little noises when they're trying to communicate or just randomly, because they don't realize that they're making those noises.
She agreed with Hakito's take about Isha probably not being able to hear a certain range of sounds.
Actually, people with hearing loss oftentimes will perceive loud noises as even more intense or startling because their noise level is pretty constant because they can't really differentiate between frequencies.
Okay.
That's what type I think she has. There's a lot of different levels of deafness. I think she can hear some things.
Isha also uses home signs, little gestures she invented on her own that Jinx has learned the meaning of. And then, of course, we have all of Isha's final memories, which aren't conversations or things Jinx says to her. They're all these beautiful moments with no sound. Kamaya acknowledged that the evidence for this theory wasn't 100%. Isha could just as easily be nonverbal for a different reason, and these scenes could have other interpretations. And for my purposes, honestly, it doesn't matter too much if it's one reason or the other, but bear with me on this for a second here. From within the context of the deaf theory, especially considering that Isha obviously doesn't have access to modern resources for the hearing impaired, and deafness would alter her life experience as a Zonite in pretty radical ways. From within that framework, consider this with me. Jinx's whole existence for the past, 8 years, 10 years, has been dominated by this dichotomy of Powder versus Jinx. Everywhere she turns, it's Powder versus Jinx, it's Powder versus Jinx, it's all over her life, it's every facet of her life. In Isha's wordless world, there is no Powder and there is no Jinx. There's just this girl. There's just what she does. There's just the kindness she showed me. There's the companionship she's willing to give me. There's how strong she is, how fun she is, how beautiful she is. That is the comprehensive picture of what Isha experiences. And Jinx can look at the same qualities, the same actions, but her entire field of vision is just darkened by this tragic idea of Jinx. Forget heroism, it's hard for anything positive to make it past that dark barrier. Everything that she is, from her violence to her theatrics to her style, is this terrible thing that she is Jinx. That's all part of this corrupt machine of destruction, which is real in a sense. She has done this stuff, but it's anchored, it's kept aggressive, it's kept alive in this word, Jinx, this label, this role. What used to be a descriptor, a passive qualifier, now actively seeks out parts of Jinx's life to spoil, to corrupt, to control. And that's why she wants so badly to die. Even though at the end of season 1 she accepted what she is, she sat in the chair and everything, that doesn't mean she likes what she is or values what she is. On the contrary, she's accepted that she is something terrible, and she has reasonably concluded that being a force of destruction is something that has no place in this world. That type of thing should not exist, should go away, it should die. That is the degree of control this idea, this role has on Jinx's life. And it's actually the same as Vi's protector role. She is the puncher. All she knows how to do is punch. Every problem, punch. Every obstacle, punch. And it's empowered her, but it's also caused her such misery. It's taken everything from her. But again, what used to maybe be a passive qualifier, a descriptor of how she acted, has now become this role that controls her, that prevents her from seeing any other option, that dictates what she tragically feels her life has to be, even if her life is slowly wasting away from being that. And now you can probably see, finish off the rest of my family and it had to be you. These lines are starting to come into pretty clear focus. It's not had to be like fate, it's had to be in an artistic sense. Jinx isn't just a role, it isn't just a character, Jinx is a narrative.
No, this isn't how it's supposed to.
I still don't know what her plan was, but it's clear she had this idea of how the scene should play out according to the Jinx narrative, similar to what she wanted to do before that narrative ended. She had to kill Vi, either actually finishing off the rest of her family for real, or existentially. If Vi, the protector, is forced to murder her own little sister, the one person she swore to protect, that is killing what Vi is. That is the Jinx story of total destruction. That is what has to happen to the Jinx character. But what happened instead? Someone who had been watching the whole time, but who hadn't heard the narrative. Someone who had never been exposed to the character of Jinx, the role, the label. Someone who only ever saw this and this. She came in and she just shattered everything. She stopped the show. Because really, there's never any show in the first place to stop. It was people living. It was humanity, as Victor says in his episode 6 monologue. It wasn't these labels. There are no labels. Those only serve to control and constrict, to funnel the enormity of reality into these narrow lines. But no, it's just life. Raw and alive. I love that this next quote existed for me to find. If you see my methodology video, it's a real invisible soccer ball for my theory. Listen to Jason Echo's conversation.
Pass me a tome. So I used words you understood in order to elicit your action. This is what Hextech runes are. Pass me a tome. Pass me a tome. There, you sighed. Still a kind of language. A sound, but not words. Something raw, natural. That's wild runes.
Isha is Jinx's wild rune. She is Jinx without the Jinx label, or the powder label for that matter. Without being able to say these labels, without knowing them at all, what Isha sees isn't a force of destruction, because that's not what this person is. If you strip her of that, you just see a girl who acts just how she feels like acting most of the time. And it's not destructive. It's fun, and it's cool, and it's protective and loving. And having seen just that, with no narrative, no history, no baggage, no nothing, Isha can take that and become a hero, because what she sees is a hero. One of my teachers, Teacher 3, used to talk about how before change, before a big decision is even possible, you first need to realize that there can be a decision. Season 2 is about Jinx becoming a hero, but there's a constrictive narrative of Jinx that stands in the way, that needs to be dissolved by someone who's unfamiliar with that narrative. Season 2, Jinx needs to mentally return to her wild rune form, her undefined, stripped down, raw, unarticulated humanity, and only then can she proceed to rediscover and redefine and even relabel and become the hero. I mentioned Jinx and Vi, I mentioned Victor's speech. In my opinion, and disclaimer once again, I'm making this video before Act 3 is out. In my opinion, this appears to be what the whole season is about, as beautifully illustrated by the intro, where we see Vi literally wipe away her own label, where we see all the characters physically stripped down to their bare forms, without all the accessories that help define the role they see themselves playing. The very idea of do-overs, or conversely the idea of what could have been, that fatalistic characterization, these are all just more superimposed constructs. It's proof that potential was there, and therefore must still be there in some form. Underneath all the BS and baggage and narrativizing human psyches compulsively do, the raw form of what we are is still there, it's still accessible. And once you do strip everything down, once it becomes clearer and clearer that it's just humanity, change becomes so much easier. Because the gap that seemed so wide before, so vast, between a stone-cold warrior and a loving daughter, between beast and man, between division and unity, between peace and war, between hero and villain, the change you want to make, these aren't on two opposing sides of some grand chasm, like it seemed according to all the narratives. The change, that other quality, is actually right here already. It's just on the other side of the coin. And sometimes it takes someone seeing you from the outside, apart from all those narratives, apart from any labels or roles at all, to really actually see you for the wild rune you've always been. Last point I want to make is about music, which has been another big difference between Season 2 and Season 1. It's a difference that not everyone is happy with, but I think with what the season is about, it makes perfect sense. Music is the epitome of wild runes. It is pure emotional expression, uncorrupted by articulation. Granted, there are lyrics. But if you look at the montages, they're about just communicating the events that happened with the raw emotion behind it, but with no moral judgment or superimposed narrative. It's just what happens and the gravity of how it feels. And I think that is how these events and really all of life is. It's a healthy mindset to have. I'm just trying to experience your life and the power of emotion evoked by events without letting your narrativizing brain control you. Music is possibly the most perfect tool to express that, especially if you can immerse yourself completely with active noise cancellation if possible, and for long periods of time too, like a 32-hour battery life. That's really what you need. And also maybe with multi-point connectivity so you can pair with two devices at once, which happen to be the exact specs of Raycon's everyday earbuds, who yes are the sponsor of this video. Big thank you to Raycon, and I am being absolutely real here. Music is a tool that allows you to experience the raw, unarticulated emotions of life, and I feel pretty happy, pretty amused that the sponsor of today's video just happened to be so in line with a video topic like this.
I'm glad it's you. Had to be you.
Anyways, I was saying these earbuds are great. Super happy to work with Raycon. I've been a fan of them long before this. I go to cafes a ton to write, and the active noise cancellation is great for that. I can hear all my glorious K-pop so clearly with no noise pollution. It's great for travel too. I travel a lot. Just got back from the Gambia, and yeah, 32-hour battery life is super nice when your total travel time is 30 hours. It was also rainy season over there, so the fact that the everyday earbuds I had were weatherproof also really came in handy. And they also just look really cool in their protective case. It's functional too. The protective cover supports wireless charging. Lots of deals come out because of Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but Raycon, get this, yes, Raycon has deals every day, but also they do have specific Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals for my viewers. Just go to buyraycon.com/schnee for 30% off site-wide. Link in the description below and in the comments and the cards. Using the code supports my channel, so if you like the content, consider picking up a pair. You can buy them, and if you change your mind, Raycon has a 30-day happiness guarantee, so you will be happy either way. And speaking of happy, Act 3 has come out, which has made me very happy. You'll hear more of my Act 3 thoughts in the coming weeks. I got a lot to say, but I want to insert an addendum here with regard to this topic specifically and how Act 3 built upon it. First of all, Ghost Soko says the line explicitly, which pretty much corroborates the main idea of this video.
We build our own prisons, bars forged of oaths, codes, commitments, walls of self-doubt and accepted limitation. We inhabit these cells, these identities, and call them us.
Okay, but also, I think it's interesting and pretty heartbreaking to see the failure of Isha's sacrifice to make an impact on Jinx the way she intends. Jinx does not see the narrative-less heroic reality Isha is showing her. Throughout this whole arc, she has seen Isha as a little Powder 2.0, and so it's possible that if things went differently, Isha might have been able to show Jinx a new version of herself, but Jinx also sees Isha as her own little sister. And when Jinx's own influence leads her sister to destroy herself, all she can see there is more dead family. She just can't see what Isha was trying to show her about herself. Makes her retreat back into her death wish mindset, where she can only see Jinx as this destructive force, and that's the ultimate problem, and the only solution to that problem is to walk away, as Silco says, to end it all. And it's important to keep in mind that this is not Silco telling her this. Silco is dead, this is a hallucination, so this is Jinx telling herself this. This is her talking herself back into her old pre-Isha mindset. And it's a little confusing to figure out if she stays more or less in that mindset until the very end, because she does end up choosing to give up her life still. I think the way I'm honestly seeing it right now is that she never fully escapes that way of thinking. I think the whole Jinx role and her judgment of that is just too ingrained in her at this point. And I think she is somewhat self-aware about that, but I also think that there's a small part of her that has departed from that fatalistic view.
A spark of rebellion still burns inside that husk, I see.
And in the end, it's Echo that brings out that little bit of wild rune Jinx, just enough for her to be able to do some good and make her life meaningful in a way she didn't believe possible before. My next video, and probably my next few videos, is going to be about Echo Powder and that whole arc and what that leads to. There's so much more to dig into there about how Jinx sees herself and all the different versions of her, so stay tuned for way more of that. Okay, we'll stop here. Subscribe. Huge thanks to the people who helped me with this video. Ethan and Alkido, thanks for your comments. Shoutouts to Kamaya too, also Squirkle, everyone in my community who discussed these scenes with me and helped me understand them. Huge thanks. Support the channel on Patreon, link in the description below. Special thanks to high tier patrons Snuggles and Not Will. Thanks to everyone who supports my channel. Hope you guys enjoyed, and thanks for watching.